Recording started with headset on. Okay, we interrupt this program. A.T. Hagan Developments, Part 2. Dos, tres, dos. The mantel clock chimed 8 times, and he decided to distract himself by listening to the last hour of NPR morning news, so he carefully stood, tucked his crutch under his arm, and crossed the room to the radio. He clicked it on, then turned and headed back to his chair. In Tallahassee, Governor Bush gave his public backing to the bill introduced yesterday in the state legislature, mandating a work requirement for anyone receiving state-administered relief funds. With federal disaster relief funds being administered by the state, in addition to those funds appropriated by the legislature, the practical effect of this bill would be that all persons receiving disaster aid would be required to prove they are undertaking some form of productive work. The bill is opposed by a number of Democratic representatives in the state House and a smaller number of Democratic state senators, but with a Republican majority in both houses, the prevailing mood of bootstrap rebuilding, the bill is expected to easily pass. Representative Wayne Osborne of the Panhandle town of Chipley is the primary sponsor of the bill in the House. He explains that the work requirement would not be applicable to anyone who has been found to be totally medically disabled, but those who have only partial disabilities may be required to perform public labor if suitable jobs can be found for them. Child care will be provided by the state, possibly staffed by other relief workers. Internationally, a small article in the corrections section of yesterday's Hong Kong Daily News reports an error in their earlier article concerning a leadership change in the Chinese Central Military Commission. The article states that the change was to be in the vice chair position of that commission, presently held by General Zhang Wanyan and Chi Hotian. It is not immediately clear if only one or both of these individuals are being replaced. China watchers in the U.S. say this may be indicative of an ongoing power struggle in the top circles of Chinese leadership. Okay. NPR has been unable to contact the author of the original news article for clarification. No official word from the PRC has yet been released. In the same edition of the Hong Kong paper, there is a front-page story of the loss of Chinese Premier Zhu Rongji in a plane crash as he was flying to southern Hunan province to view the devastation left behind after the failure and collapse of retention dikes around Dongting Lake. This lake is China's second largest freshwater lake and covers an area approximately the size of Luxembourg. The article did not state a casualty figure, but speculated the impact-induced flood-related deaths may soon top 1 million, with a further 65 million people displaced as all of China's major rivers overflow their banks. Dongting Lake is a major outflow for the Yangtze River, one of the largest in that nation. Hunan province is one of China's most important rice-producing regions, and the harvest there is predicted to drop below 155 million tons this year due to the record-breaking flooding. This is some 22 million tons less than last year's harvest, which raises the specter of famine. In Moscow today, Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated his offer to the United States and China to mediate their dispute and has stated that if Moscow is not found suitable, he was willing to move the negotiations to Switzerland or Japan. Speaking through a translator, he stated, "I feel an obligation, according to the Russian-Sino Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation and our long-standing bonds of friendship with the U.S., to try to resolve this dispute between our friends, the United States, and the People's Republic of China. Neither the U.S. nor Chinese governments have yet to respond to this latest offer of mediation." Also from Russia today, further controversy in the Russian Duma as the Russian Communist Party finds itself increasingly outmaneuvered and marginalized in the Russian legislature. After being expelled by the party for refusing to resign his post in protest for the Communists losing 7 of their 9 committee chairmanships, Gennady Seleznev, Speaker of the State Duma has joined forces with the pro-Kremlin unified Russia bloc that has control a combined 240 seats spread between four allied parties. Mr. Zeleznov states the Rodina is in need of a new center-left party, perhaps based on the European model. Weakened as it may presently be, the prevailing wisdom among Kremlin watchers is that the Communist Party will remain an important factor in Russian politics for the foreseeable future due to their still being the largest, most disciplined single party in the Russian Federation. John swallowed the last of his coffee, so he limped into the kitchen to refill his mug with fresh brew, brown sugar, and cream skimmed from the morning's milk. Melinda came out of the pantry with a small brown paper bag, heading for the dining room. "How's the schoolwork coming, Sprout?" he asked. "Pretty good, Daddy." She replied, "Heather is helping Brittany and me with our math." "I'm just getting us a snack. Since it's raining, we're going to do schoolwork until 11, then fix lunch." "Okay," her father said, and limped back into the living room. Once back in his chair, he poured more bourbon into his mug, and then intentionally, more than he intended, actually. Well, damn it. He took a tentative sip. Not bad. He took a deep swallow. In the Crimea today, representatives of the Russian Federation reached agreement with representatives of the governments of Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan over the apportionment of the oil-rich Caspian seabed. This trilateral agreement is expected to put increasing pressure on Iran and Turkmenistan, who demand a different method of apportioning the sea bottom be used. Agricultural officials of the European Union and the Russian Federation at a conference in Bern, Switzerland, released statements that due to adverse weather conditions and flooding resulting from the asteroid strike, the grain harvest this summer and fall are expected to be as much as 35% below normal, leading to fears that rationing may become necessary this winter. The throbbing in his leg was beginning to subside, and John took another deep pull from his mug. "Damn, but that's good. That fresh cream makes a huge difference. Should have got a dairy cow years ago. Wonder if I can talk Ellie into selling me one." He picked up a Salatin book and began to read. In Brussels today, European Union officials indicated that they felt that it might be possible to reclaim flooded lands in the Netherlands, Belgium, and part of France within 2 years. Netherlands, Belgium, and France within 2 years. British officials indicate that food shipments are now reaching all areas in need in the tsunami-devastated areas of the British Isles. Flight routes and refueling stations have now been established for aid shipments from the unaffected European nations to be flown to the United States. Relief efforts have been complicated by the loss of stopover points in Iceland, Greenland, and coastal Canada, but now new refueling stations have been put in place. USDA officials state that due to flooding and other adverse weather, the national grain harvest will probably be reduced by 35 to 40% this year, but there should be sufficient food stocks to feed the nation now that Midwestern fuel distribution difficulties are being cleared. The livestock industry is expected to be seriously hit by this reduction in the harvest, which will make grain too expensive to be used as animal feed. Sharp increases in the price of meat are expected starting in October. In the weather, the third snowstorm of the season is advancing across the northernmost Midwest and is expected to blanket the Northeast within 3 days. Light rain is falling across the central portion of the nation, but is expected to subside by tonight. The cold front presently passing across Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas is expected to move out over the Atlantic by tonight without dropping significant amounts of precipitation. John put the book down in his lap so that he could rest his eyes. Presently, he began to snore.